Hi everyone, I hope you're having a good evening on this Thursday. So today we're going to be looking at a video that's close to home times two. What do I mean by that? Well, it originates close to Texas, and I'm from Texas. I now live in New Hampshire, and so it ends in New Hampshire. So one thing I want to forewarn you about is if you have sensitivity towards your children, don't have them in the room, because DEA is all over this. So let's take a look. I hope you like this, and let's go.
To 27 people as part of a bust of a major drug trafficking operation.
America, we just witnessed a massive takedown that proves the Sinaloa's reach still extends far beyond the Mexican border. 27 people were arrested in Franklin, New Hampshire, a small town with just 8,500 people, in a coordinated operation that seized $100,000 in cash and exposed a drug distribution network directly connected with the same cartel we've been talking about with El Mayo Zambada. But here's what's going to blow your mind. They had to clear out a homeless encampment that was being used as a drug distribution center. And the drugs were being funneled from Lawrence, Massachusetts, which has become the fentanyl capital of New England.
Through their investigation, they found this drug operation was tied to the Sinaloa Cartel in Mexico.
What is up, guys? Tyson Dela Cruz here.
Morning. You guys heard?
Just a border issue. These criminal organizations have distribution networks reaching into the heart of small town America, using the most vulnerable citizens as cover for their operation. Let me break down exactly what happened in Franklin, New Hampshire over 2 days that should terrify every American parent. Day 1, August 26, 2025, DEA agents and Franklin police executed 3 search warrants. 17 people were arrested, $100,000 in cash seized, 1 firearm recovered, unspecified quantities of fentanyl and methamphetamine seized. Day 2, August 27th, 10 additional arrests were made. Homeless encampments cleared that were being used as drug distribution centers. Multiple law enforcement agencies participated in this.
The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration and Franklin police have arrested 27 people as part of a bust of a major drug trafficking operation.
This wasn't some random drug bust. This was the result of a 3-month investigation that started when the DEA received information about drug trafficking networks operating in Franklin that was supported by the Sinaloa Cartel. DEA agent in charge, Garrett Ferget, didn't mince any words. The Sinaloa Cartel in Mexico has a strong hold on drug distribution in New England, and this week's enforcement action attacked their street-level distribution network.
Officials at the DEA do say that through their investigation, they found this drug operation was tied to the Sinaloa Cartel in Mexico.
Now here's where it gets really disturbing. DEA believes these drugs originated with the Sinaloa Cartel and made their way into Franklin, New Hampshire from Lawrence, Massachusetts. And folks, Lawrence has become the fentanyl distribution capital of New England.
I took this little tiny piece of what I thought was crack cocaine and I inhaled it and I went down. It took 6 Narcans to get revived.
Let me give you the scope of what's happening in Massachusetts. February 2025, 25 individuals charged in a conspiracy that distributed $20,000 worth of drugs per day throughout eastern Massachusetts and Rhode Island. February 2025, 10 people indicted in the Lawrence-based organization distributing fentanyl and meth in New Hampshire. May 2025, Dominican National pled guilty for operating fentanyl distribution hub that supplied Massachusetts cities.
Police say this all started when the DEA got information about a drug trafficking network working in the city.
This shows you the pipeline. Sinaloa Cartel in Mexico to Lawrence, Massachusetts to Franklin, New Hampshire. They've created distribution networks that can move deadly fentanyl from Mexican cartels through Massachusetts into small New Hampshire towns. But here's the kicker. Despite Massachusetts being a major drug trafficking hub, they're actually seeing decrease in overdose deaths. This doesn't change the fact that they're serving as a distribution center for poison functioning communities across New England. One of the most disturbing aspects of this case is that law enforcement had to clear a homeless encampment that was being used as a drug distribution site. Think about what this means. The Sinaloa Cartel is using America's most vulnerable citizens as human shields for their criminal operation.
Now, officials say a homeless encampment was cleared too because it had been involved in ongoing drug distribution.
This is a strategy that we're seeing across the country. Cartels set up distribution operations in homeless encampments because less law enforcement scrutiny. Police are often reluctant to aggressively patrol homeless areas. The vulnerable population aspect, homeless individuals can be coerced or paid small amounts of money to participate. There's constant turnover. People come and go, make it harder to track these networks. And then there's a sympathy factor. The public and media sympathy for homeless makes enforcement politically difficult. These cartels are literally exploiting America's homeless crisis to distribute the same fentanyl that's killing over 100,000 Americans every single year. They're using the most vulnerable citizens as cover for operations that destroy American communities. This Franklin operation required coordination between multiple law enforcement agencies, and it shows what's possible when federal law enforcement takes the lead. On the federal level, the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration was involved. On a state level, New Hampshire State Police. On a local level, Franklin Police Department and multiple New Hampshire police departments.
During the investigation, we seized 100-gram quantities of fentanyl and methamphetamine. Additionally, during the 2-day takedown operation, we seized a large amount of drug proceeds.
The Franklin police chief said the DEA took the lead on this case and we're proud to have supported their efforts. By working together, we're able to remove specific drug trafficking operations from our community. Agent Forget added, this case is an excellent example of how federal leadership and local cooperation can come together to protect communities like Franklin from dangerous drug trafficking. This is exactly what we need more of. Federal agencies taking the lead on cartel operations while coordinating with local law enforcement. What's happening in Franklin, New Hampshire is part of a much larger pattern. The Sinaloa Cartel, the same organization that Omayo Zambada led for decades, has established distribution networks throughout New England. Agent Forget specifically said that the Sinaloa Cartel in Mexico has a stronghold on drug distribution in New England. This isn't about isolated incidents. This is about an organized criminal enterprise with tentacles reaching into small American communities.
And the DEA also does tell us that this case just highlights the work federal and local officials are able to do to keep communities like Franklin or the entire Lakes region here in New Hampshire safe.
Think about the sophistication of this operation. International coordination is required, orders and money flowing between Mexico and New England, multiple state distributions, using Massachusetts as a hub to supply New Hampshire, local recruitment, finding people in Franklin willing to participate, and the infrastructure development, setting up distribution points and homeless encampments. The financial networks moving over $100,000 in cash proceeds. This is economic warfare disguised as drug trafficking. The Sinaloa Cartel is literally poisoning American communities while extracting wealth from our economy. The fentanyl and methamphetamine seized in Franklin are the same deadly substances that are killing over 100,000 Americans every single year. This bust shows you exactly how these drugs are getting into small New England communities. And here's what makes this so deadly. Fentanyl potency is 50 times stronger than heroin, 100 times stronger than morphine. There's a contamination risk, often mixed with other drugs without users knowing.
This is terrible.
Potential, small, tiny amounts can be
If they
fatal,
can penetrate small town America, they can
addictive, and it
penetrate
creates a
anywhere.
dependency that feeds cartel profits.
The names and charges of all 27 people who've been arrested aren't being released at this point, but police do say some arrests were directly tied to drug trafficking, while others were unrelated but still part of their operation.
The fact that some arrests weren't directly related to drug trafficking, but were still part of the operation shows you how these networks operate. They create entire ecosystems of criminal activity, drug trafficking, money laundering, weapons, identity theft, and other crimes all working together. This Franklin bust comes as the Trump administration has designated cartels as terrorist organizations and is ramping up enforcement against these criminal networks. The Sinaloa Cartel is now being treated as a terrorist organization that's waging war against American communities. Under President Trump's Take Back America initiative, drug traffickers are being elevated to the level of terrorists, which allows for enhanced penalties, asset forfeit, and coordination between different agencies. America, this Franklin, New Hampshire bust proves that the cartel problem has reached every corner of our country. A town of...
Well, guys, how to take all of this in, right? I mean, I thought it was bad enough when it was going from Mexico into Texas, because I was born only 3 hours away from the border del Puente. So to me, every time they talked about drugs coming in and other things that were happening at our border, it would hit home. It would hit home. And so can you imagine how it feels to have it right here, up close and personal yet again? Because you have to stop and think about, if the Sinaloa Cartel has gotten a hold of somebody in a small town America type of place, they can go anywhere. They can go anywhere. How do we know that they went from Texas all the way towards New Hampshire? I mean, they could have. Don't get me wrong, guys. Don't get me wrong. They could have very well done that, because there's people that are picked up at bus stations that are Mexican type of bus stations in San Antonio, let's say, where I'm from, which again is only 3 hours from the border. And they will pay people, even taxi drivers, Lyft drivers, etc., to take them from Texas all the way to another state. And they'll pay them really well. I know that for me, because these people didn't want to take, and this was years back, guys, because I used to own a taxi when Yellow Cab was up and running in San Antonio, and there was no Lyft, there was no Uber. And I owned a taxi, and I picked up, I think it was a total of 3 people that were going from, but they were only going from San Antonio to Houston, Texas. So that was a 3 to 4 hour drive, and I got $500 for that trip. And that was way back then. This was about, this was before 9/11. So can you imagine what those people are charging that knowingly pick up people that are either illegal or either dealing drugs, moving drugs? I mean, you got to stop and think about it, right? So yeah, it could have come in that way, is what I'm saying. Okay, but what if, because New Hampshire is right next to Canada, what if the Sinaloa gang cartel, I don't know, they could have shipped it in, they could have flown it into Canada, right, on a private plane? You know, stranger things have happened. Or they could have been on a ship or boat and brought it in that way, right, to Florida or to Canada, right? And then what could have occurred was moving it into New Hampshire, because New Hampshire is right here and Canada's right here. I mean, they're bordering. There's a certain town, and I can't remember the name of the town right now, in Canada, where there are, it's like a little station, right, that you're supposed to go and check in, because if you want to cross the border of Canada into US, it's just a matter of like not even 500 feet. It's like maybe 200 or 250 feet between America and Canada. And they don't have that. It's like a little shack, like a security shack, but it's supposed to be for people to come in and show your, credentials before you move into territory, right? But someone else, and it was another video, and I don't remember what video it was I was watching. It was just in reference to how easy it could be, if you wanted to just go from one border to the other, and there's nobody going to stop you. Nobody's going to stop you. So they could have done it that way. There's also another, and I cannot remember, I'm so sorry, because this was months back, and I love information. So I was watching something on Canada at those 2 occasions, and the other one was showing that where the border is, there's a street that has no fencing, nothing. It's just an everyday neighborhood, and you go from one to the other. You go from Canada to America. I mean, it's that easy peasy. You could walk through, in other words. So it could have been a great many different ways that this happened. But let's get back to the point. So the point is fentanyl. Fentanyl is stronger than morphine. And let me tell you, I had worked for pain management practice, and I didn't realize how many people take morphine in pill form. I'm going to say that again. I didn't realize until I worked for this medical practice, pain management, how many people are walking around taking pill form morphine for pain. So let me back up just a little bit. So I'm not saying these people didn't have pain in their backs, in their legs, in their hips, in their joints, whatever. I'm not saying that pain is not real. But what kind of pain do you have to walk around taking morphine in pill form, right? So I'm just trying to set the mood here. I'm trying to, paint a picture. So let's take that. And then let's go ahead and put some fentanyl onto the morphine. So that man that was talking said it took 5 or 7 cans of the Narcan. Those things that they carry around. People carrying them around. Emergency services carry them around. Recently, 2 years back when I was working as a medical assistant instructor, I had to teach my students that were becoming medical assistants how to use the Narcan. Because you never know, if you're in the medical assisting medical service, you're probably, as a nursing department, going to run into folks that may need you to resuscitate them, to if their pupils are all dilated or whatever. You never know. Overdoses can occur. So I had to teach them how to use that and show them videos on what is it? Is it Minnesota? I don't want to misspeak, but I think it's Minnesota or Minneapolis. I can't remember, but there's a town that they have what they call zombies, because they're on fentanyl, and they literally just their whole body is just like folded over, and they're just like that. So they call them zombies because that's what happens when you take this, right? And they get really PO'd, because on that one it was a clip that I watched in reference to what happened when you gave them the Narcan or something similar. They would get so irate with the people that were helping them, because, well, their job, as they see it, to society, even though they were not part of medical services, were to go into the communities and carry these Narcans with them, because they were going to try one person at a time to save whoever it was they could save that was overdosing. And when he resuscitated one in particular, when he came back, he was fighting mad. I mean, he wanted to throw down because he got PO'd that he no longer was high. It interrupts the high immediately, and it brings them back. So this man that we were listening to right now stated that it took 5 or 7 cans to resuscitate him. Can you imagine? I mean, what? He's a cat. He's got 9 lives. He's already wasted 7. I mean, that's the way I'm looking at it. I don't know how you're looking at it. So this is crazy, folks. This is really crazy. And Sinaloa, I mean, do you really don't want Trump? Do you really, I know, double negative. Do you really not want Trump to stop the drugs from penetrating the USA? For those out there that are parents, for those out there that are future parents, meaning you're thinking of forming a family eventually, because that is your, that is something
From
that
Massachusetts.
Oops, I'm so sorry, I hit the button by accident. So stop and think about it. If you are someone that is in your 20s or 30s, but you eventually are going to go towards having children, which forms a family, right? Or you already are raising a family. Is this really what you want for your children? To be raised in an environment where you can't even let them go out because, oh my gosh, peer pressure is real, guys. Peer pressure is real. I remember in the 80s and the early 90s, I literally had to teach my kids, do not eat the Skittles. What do you mean, Mom? Dude, I'm telling you, unless I buy you Skittles, don't freaking eat the Skittles. So I had to inform them that it looked like candy, because in those particular decades, there were the things that they were distributing would make them look like Skittle colored candy. So guys, really, you got to educate your children and watch out with that peer pressure, because who are they going to listen to? Sometimes they'll listen to mom and dad if you talk sensibly to them and you've taught them well. Let's just put it that way. But at other times, when you teach your kid that the TV, that the PlayStation, Xbox is their friend, then they don't need to come to you, because you don't have a bond, because you're using those, and I'm sorry, I was once a young parent too, but you're using those objects, computer, the Xbox, the PlayStation, you're using those objects to babysit, to be your ears and eyes. And a real parent will not just do that. There's time limits, etc. Right? I'm not going to tell you how to parent, but I'm telling you, you better open your eyes before you lose your kid. Because peer pressure, well, what do you mean? Oh, come on. They'll punk them. Well, come on. What do you mean? Oh, come on. Come on. You're a wimp. You're just a wimp. And you know they're going to use stronger words than that. You're a wuss. That's why you don't want to do it. And all it takes is, okay, let me show you. And bam, they're gone. So stop and think about it in that way. Don't take this as criticism, because that's not what it is. But this video may save your child's life. Now, it's going from, I think, 9, if I'm not mistaken, like the age of 9, all into like mid-30s is the greatest amount of unalives that are going on statistically. So now do you understand why I'm forewarning and why I'm making this video? Because it could be very well, this video puts you in tune with what you need to know to save your children, or to educate your children. Okay, some of us, I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there, some of us don't watch the news, or some of us don't watch videos that are informative to this degree. We rather watch feel-good videos or movies or Netflix. Well, this is not Netflix, but it is informative, and you should know these things. Now, I always disclose, I am not a medical physician, but I am a parent, and I know that it doesn't matter whether you're a parent now or you're a younger parent. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is educating your children, taking care of your children, grounding them. And by grounding them, I don't mean go to your room, you're grounded. No, grounding them in common sense, so that nobody, not even peer pressure, can get to them before you educate them. I hope that this has helped someone. This is really, it's really disheartening for me, because New Hampshire is so small that in a matter of like 20 minutes or less, you could be in another town. Because it's small, it's tiny. Take a look at the map if you don't believe me. So Franklin is about an hour's drive from where I live. Lawrence is, for many people out there that already know this, is for Latin people. Latin people galore go towards Lawrence and work there and purchase things there, like groceries or whatever, clothes, etc. So can you imagine? They're penetrating into these small town Americas because they know that somebody's always want to get that mordida. You know, they're going to want to get that bite off of some extra change. Let me tell you two things that are startling about this particular subject, if that wasn't enough for you already. Number one, they had to disband a homeless encampment. Stop and think about that. Anybody that's from New Hampshire or Massachusetts knows full well that housing is far, few, and in between. So we're already having compounded problems. You don't need to add, more injury to the insult that people are going through. And then to top it all off, people can't afford much nowadays. So stop and think about that. Somebody's gonna take that bite. They're not gonna think before they do it because it seems like easy money. So yeah, that to me, seeing all that money on the ground, seeing those people in handcuffs, and then seeing all those people that were part of it, that were part of the homeless encampment, all those people, there was more, but I just decided to show just a row of them. There were so many that bit into, yeah, I'm gonna distribute. I mean, come on, I'm not alleging here. They wouldn't be on camera for the world to see their faces if that's not what they were doing. Nonetheless, I wanted to make this as short as I could. I apologize if I went over. Thank you so much for viewing my channel. With time, equipment, and your wonderful, generous donations, then we can get equipment to better serve you video and visually, okay? However, for today, I'm asking for a small favor. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe if you feel so inclined to do. And super chats, super thanks, super gifts are available. And if you'd like to directly send that to the channel, you can always do so, because the description will always have the Cash App information for you. Thank you again, my friends. Please stay safe. I'm telling you, we can all breathe a sigh of relief the less and the less and the less and the less that we hear this on the news. But for now, I myself am very, very glad to see that stuff, at least, and those people off the streets. Thanks again for viewing, and we'll be back again with another video. Bye.